my distinguished colleagues in the Supreme Court, dignitaries, and members of the bar. I think we have to professionalize many of our functions which we hold. And step one is to stop having this long list of names which we call out at the beginning of every speech. If we save about 1.5 minutes, and on an average there are 6 to 7 people who have to speak, you save about 10 minutes. And then if you don't have a vote of thanks, you save another 5 minutes. I think we have to begin somewhere, and let's start it here. If there is a broad consensus amongst all of us, the colleagues I'm sure are on board, and the members of the bar also. So I began without doing the conventional, very eulogistic beginning. I must also appreciate the SCB at the outset for issuing the invitations for today's function in Hindi, English, Bangla, Marathi, Urdu, Kannada, and Assamese, and Oriya also. I was almost going to say that if it was not in Oriya, Mr. Patijoshi would have a little bit of explanation to do, but Oriya is included as well. Yes. Please join me in welcoming Justice Satish Sharma, Justice Masih, Justice Augustine Masih, Justice Sandeep Mehta, and Justice PB Varale to the Supreme Court. With their elevation, the Supreme Court is once again operating at its maximum mandated strength. Even more importantly, it has the occasion of benefiting from the diversity of their experience as lawyers, as judges, and above all, as students of the law. But in terms of the sheer energy which they have brought, you can rest assured that the Supreme Court is brimming with energy. Let me say a few words. I know it's the end of the day, but I can't possibly miss this occasion to say a few words about each of our colleagues who have been appointed and whose appointment we celebrate today. Let me begin with Justice Satish Chandra Sharma. As we've heard earlier, Justice Sharma's journey in Bhopal began in a household dedicated to the cause of education and public service. It is little wonder that Justice Sharma himself went on to complete his legal studies as a National Merit Scholar and graduated top of his class with 3 gold medals before embarking on his professional journey. As an advocate, he began his professional journey in Jabalpur. He was one of the youngest advocates to be designated as a senior counsel. And before entering the portals of the Supreme Court, he was with the High Court of Madhya Pradesh, then Karnataka, Telangana, and Delhi. Across his practice in the High Courts and during the course of his time on the bench, Justice Sharma has consistently advanced the cause of justice. At the Karnataka High Court particularly, he has brought justice to people on the fringes of society. In Karnataka, a bench comprising Brother Satish directed the state to expeditiously provide Braille textbooks for children with visual impairments. Later in the Delhi High Court, Justice Sharma noted the state's failure to enforce minimum reservations mandated for persons with disabilities. Tying the principle of anti-discrimination with dignity, he noted, and I'll quote just one sentence, "Instead of providing an equal space to grow, we have been compelling the persons with disabilities to prove time and again that they are capable of a lot more than we think." It is indeed challenging for me to highlight to you Justice Sharma's most significant contributions because there are so many. He has issued directions to spread awareness about the development schemes for prisoners and their dependents. On another occasion, he directed the implementation of the Supreme Court's directions against manual scavenging. In directing state-run Kendriya Vidyalayas to implement reservations for persons with hearing impairments, he noted with anguish how persons with disabilities were being made to run from pillar to post. Most striking to me is this opening paragraph of his judgment, which began thus: "Once again, we have before us some of our fellow citizens who have been trying to secure equal and dignified treatment in the eyes of the state. Justice Satish Sharma's avowed goal, in his own words, is justice to the litigants. In that, even beyond sensitivity, he has shown compassion towards a fellow citizen as an equal and not as someone who is at the mercy of the judge." Today he began by a little confession when he recognized the contribution of his spouse, Mrs. Meeta Sharma. To use Mr. P.H. Parekh's analogy, your permanent president of the SCBA. What Justice Satish Chandra Sharma said about his gracious spouse can be treated as a reportable judgment. Let me say a few words about Justice Augustine Masih. A look at his early life and education will tell you that from the very initial stages of his life, he has traveled across the country. Brother Augustine's parents worked as staff nurses at the Linlithgow TB hospital in Kasoli before his father joined the Safdarjung hospital in Delhi, and thereafter his parents moved to Kuwait. As an advocate of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, Justice Masih handled cases from across different regions, spanning a diverse range of practice areas including public law, employment, and civil law. He is widely regarded by the bar and bench at the Rajasthan High Court as one of the hardest working and, allow me to say, workaholic judges. One would often find him in his office quite late into the night. We know that he has on occasion held midnight hearings to resolve matters that required his urgent attention. As the adage goes, justice never sleeps. We now have at the Supreme Court a judge that, well, sleeps quite late. Very often my registrars in the listing branch call me up at 10 or 10:30 and say there's an urgent request for listing, some demolition is going to take place. Now I know whom to nominate. Justice Masih shares my passion for tech-enabled courtrooms and accessible infrastructure. As I recently witnessed, under the leadership of Justice Masih, the Rajasthan High Court has undertaken various measures to make the courts of the state accessible and easy to navigate. We recently inaugurated the Paperless Courts Initiative and the High Court's Telegram channel. These were, of course, among the several other initiatives, including video conferencing between the principal seat in Jodhpur and the bench in Jaipur, Wi-Fi-enabled court complex, and many others. Justice Masih has upheld the values of perseverance and judicial discipline in his work. In hearing an interim bail application, Justice Masih highlighted how the High Court not only had the power, but a duty to safeguard the life and liberty of people. The Constitution and our laws provide judges with extraordinary powers to ensure that procedure, which is an enabler, does not become an inhibitor of justice. Justice Masih, in his own words and actions alike, has framed this power as a duty, and that to me is the most remarkable attribute of his judicial personality. Judges must act in the service of the people, not because they can, but because they are supposed to. They must answer the constitutional duties and not treat them as powers to serve the cause of justice in the truest sense of the term. Let me speak a little bit about Justice Sandeep Mehta, who hails from the blue city of Jodhpur. Before his elevation, he practiced across courts of his home states and also before the Supreme Court. His reputation as a criminal law expert who has practiced widely across the courts at all levels of the judiciary precedes him. He always credits his trial court practice for his keen attention to detail and precision, particularly the years he spent in the chambers of his maternal grandfather. Besides serving on the State Bar Council, which we were told about earlier, he was counsel for commission in 3 judicial inquiry commissions. Before the Supreme Court, Justice Mehta served at the Rajasthan High Court and Guwahati High Court. Our practice at the bar in many ways shapes our perspectives while on the bench. Justice Sandeep Mehta's association with the law at the grassroots has contributed to his vision as a judge. We frequently see his judgments on a range of constitutional and criminal law matters, which offer a glimpse into the workings of a judicial mind capable of sifting the grain from the chaff. His journey and his practice serve as an inspiration to many young lawyers who, despite the compelling attractions of constitutional court practice, continue to work at the courts of first instance. Justice Mehta's orders and judgments, mostly succinct, strike a beautiful balance between law and the factual realities of the parties before him. In one such case before Justice Sandeep Mehta, a juvenile who was refused bail on the ground that the bail would bring him in contact with known offenders, Justice Mehta, in a short and crisp order, held that the apprehension was baseless and could be easily resolved by an undertaking by the legal guardians of the juvenile. This, he said, was a natural extension of the fundamental right under Article 21. A lesser known fact to most of you, Justice Sandeep Mehta has been instrumental in the conservation of Deepor Bheel, a freshwater lake that is also a Ramsar site in Guwahati. In a PIL before the High Court, A bench comprising of Justice Mehta issued a list of directions and suggestions regarding encroachments and dumping of effluents in the lake. He suggested that the harmful and intrusive plant species infesting the lake could be used for handicraft items, and that the state should consider ways of promoting tourism and employment around the site in an eco-friendly manner. He is truly a solutions-driven judge who is interested in finding a middle ground for competing interests. Justice Sandeep Mehta steered the Guwahati High Court into its Platinum Jubilee earlier this year, which I had the pleasure to be a part of. I can testify that he has made lasting changes to the infrastructure of not only the High Court, including initiatives to set up a new High Court complex in North Guwahati across the Brahmaputra. Justice Mehta has also made strides in enhancing access to courts in the state, both physically and digitally. We can understand what digital connectivity means for courts today, even more so for a High Court that presides over as many states as the Guwahati High Court. In Justice Mehta, we have not only a skilled judge, but also an astute administrator. Let me say a few words about Justice Prasanna Varale. Justice Varale hails from Nipani in Karnataka, nestled on the border of Maharashtra. He started his academic career at Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, studying arts and law before enrolling as an advocate. Interestingly, but almost as if it were preordained, Justice Varale's family shared a close connect with Dr. Babasaheb Bhimrao Ambedkar, and he has often credited Dr. Ambedkar's blessings and mentorship for shaping his journey as he did today. Justice Varale's grandfather was taken to the erstwhile Aurangabad, as it was called, by Dr. Ambedkar and appointed as a superintendent of a college set up by Babasaheb. Notably, it was Dr. Ambedkar who guided Justice Varale's father towards education in the law. Sri Bhalchandra Varale, his father, became a judicial officer and eventually served as the registrar of the Bombay High Court. With the statue of Dr. Ambedkar overseeing the Supreme Court premises, the symbolic presence of Dr. Ambedkar's guidance and counsel will persist with Justice Varale, as indeed with all of us, and his family as he assumes office in the Supreme Court. He had an illustrious practice at the bar and dabbled in a wide range of subjects as a lawyer in the district court and constitutional matters at the High Court bench in Aurangabad. Dr. Ambedkar, who supplemented his legal practice with teaching, like him, Dr. Varale also served, Prasanna Varale also served as a lecturer in law at the Ambedkar Law College, Aurangabad. While serving in the Bombay High Court and later in Karnataka at the High Court, Justice Varale was widely recognized as a public-spirited judge, a judge who did not shy away from complementing his razor-sharp judicial mind with his ability to adjudicate from his heart with compassion and sensitivity. Benches headed by Justice Varale initiated several suo motu cases and took up issues of immense public importance. For instance, Justice Varale's bench took suo motu cognizance and prevented a famous daily from publishing pictures, videos, and interviews of a victim of sexual assault. He was widely credited for that judgment. Similarly, Justice Varale acted with empathy when government authorities raised technical objections, such as the failure to link Aadhaar cards, to prevent members of the tribal communities from receiving the benefits of subsidized food grains. Justice Varale's sensitivity can best be understood in his own words when he observed, "It is a disheartening situation for us when we, the fortunates, are eagerly awaiting as the festive season is approaching, and the festival of lights would spread joy and happiness in society throughout the state or the whole nation. Here are the few petitioners who are the members of the marginalized section in general and tribals in particular who have approached this court on a grievance that they have been deprived of basic requirements of a human life." The Supreme Court has become richer with the addition of a judge who brings profound sensitivity and a deep understanding of the challenges faced by our marginalized citizens, those for whom this People's Court truly stands. In conclusion, as I welcome my brothers to the bench, I would like to share my 2 cents of wisdom as someone who has been here at the Supreme Court for a little while longer. Consider this also to be my advice to the young lawyers out there. There is a vast body of literature on how judges must decide and what goes into legal decision making in general. While the knowledge of the law and the context of its enactment are important, it is ultimately the understanding of people's problems that makes us better lawyers and judges. I believe decision making is somewhat like, to borrow the words of a distinguished scholar, riding a bicycle. If you are teetering out of control, it is unlikely that a complicated theory will help you to restore the balance. In the moments of imbalance, we are unlikely to find solutions in very complicated theoretical statements of the law or policy. The stabilizing influence in such moments of crisis is often a very simple idea of justice. The strength of a simple idea lies in the fact that it comes from the vast experience of a judge, as a lawyer, as a student of the law, and as a discerning, observing member of this society. Legal power is not enough for a judge. The stronger tool is their desire to understand human life. The journeys of Justice Satish Sharma, Justice Augustine Masih, Justice Sandeep Mehta, and Justice Prasanna Varale demonstrate their commitment to understanding human life and to improving it with the help of our laws. I would like to welcome them to the Supreme Court. In what has come to become my tradition for events at the bar, I would like to conclude with these lines, this time from a ghazal from the legendary Jagjit Singh. तेरे आने की जब खबर महके, तेरी खुशबू से सारा घर महके. Thank you. Namaste.